Hi and welcome to Mike's Machines. I thought I'd talk about my Kendon motor lift. I've had this lift for about a year now and I've used it for a couple of services on both my older Motor Guzzi and my more recent Benelli, and it's proven to be very useful. The best feature of these is the fact that they fold up. As you can see, it sort of stands up on its end and you can put it out of the way. So if you've got limited floor space, these are a pretty good choice. There are some limitations with the design though, and I'll go through those in a minute. But let's get it on the floor and put a bike on it, and I'll show you how it works. Oh, and don't forget to engage the safety bar before working on the motorcycle. Well, as you can see, that was fairly straightforward, getting the bike up on the lift. There's a few idiosyncratic things with this lift that I should point out. First of all, these front tie-down points actually move when the lift is elevated because, as you can see, the scissor section sort of contracts as it raises. Obvious, really. And what it means is that the front anchor points move, the rear ones don't. So if you strap the bike from the rear, you can strap the bike down tightly before you lift the bike. On the front, you need to, well, you can tighten them up before you lift, but they're going to loosen as the lift raises and they're going to tighten as the lift lowers. So you want to be careful that you loosen these front straps off before you lower the bike. Otherwise you're going to compress the forks if you've got it set here, or if you've got it lower down on the fork leg, you might actually stress something, probably the lift, maybe your tyre, who knows, you might bend something. So that's something to be aware of. Now, this is a fairly narrow lift, which means it has a benefit in that you can work close to your motorcycle and get underneath it. The downside is you can't use the side stand. Now, I can understand why, because it's got a fairly narrow, I suppose, stability point on the floor. So if you leaned the bike over on a side stand, there's a risk that it might fall. So you can't use a side stand. The other downside is you can't use a centre stand. Not that a lot of modern motorcycles have centre stands. And you also can't use an axle stand or, say, a front triple clamp stand either. So you've got to make do with either, as I've done here, I've got a lifting point up on the roof, which I can place the front or the rear of the bike under because the bike stand moves. Or you can either use a screw jack, blocks of wood, and Kendon do make a sort of a platform scissor jack which goes in there, which of course works well on bikes with a flat bottom. This Benelli, on the other hand, because it has an exhaust system and other bits and pieces, it's a bit of a moot point. But for most things, it's pretty good. The other feature is the rear section comes out. I'll show you that in a minute. But underneath, this is powered by a simple, I suppose, adapted car jack hydraulic lifter. And there's a manual point here, which you can use with a lever. I'll just get that. Here's the handle. Just slots in down here and you can manually lift it. There's a release knob here which remotely works the release on the jack, and there's an air motor down there that you can connect up to your compressed air system to lift the lift, using your air compressor. So we'll just move around the back and we'll have a look at the rear wheel removal. Okay, this is one of the pins that removes this rear section so you can get your rear wheel out. There's one on each side. Obviously I can't do this at the moment because I don't have a jack or a block of wood under there holding the rear of the bike up, but it's pretty straightforward. Just jack up the rear here, pull these two pins, and this back section comes off. And you can also see here the rear lifting points as well. Kendon do recommend that you tie your motorcycle down at both ends, front and back, and it's certainly a good idea if you're not doing anything that requires you to move the motorcycle up or down for the extra security. So that's about it at the back here. Now at the front of the motorcycle you've got this bar here and you've got this wheel chock at the back. This wheel chock is held in place by a pin, and you can actually move that wheel chock forwards and backwards so that when you roll, say, a bike with a different diameter wheel or different wheel size in and push it over, it actually sits securely while you get to your straps and strap it down. But you can also, if you strap the bike down at the back and perhaps not at the front if you're going to lift it obviously, you can actually remove that wheel chock by removing the two pull pins, and also this bar here comes off by removing these pins here. Lift the front of the bike, whether it's overhead or with something under the engine, and you can get the front wheel out quite easily. This section doesn't drop away, of course, it's part of the supporting channel, but it is possible to comfortably get the front wheel off the bike in this position. I suppose you could try reversing the bike onto the stand and having the front wheel over the pull-out section at the back, but I don't think you could do it on your own. I certainly haven't been able to do it, and I just found it a lot easier to do it this way. The only caveat, of course, is that if you actually lift the front of the motorcycle here to get the front wheel off the ground from the top rather than jacking from underneath, it transfers the weight of the motorcycle onto the back wheel, which is far enough back that it can actually cause the stand to tip if you're not careful. So you're better off jacking underneath if you want to remove the front wheel in this position. I think that's about it for the Kendon motor lift. I hope you enjoyed this little short review, and I hope this will be the first of many more reviews on motorcycles, cars, garden machinery, and perhaps anything else I can lay my hands on. See you next time.